Goblins Coaches Show. As you guys can see, Coach Young and Coach Stoller have kind of switched places here. Coach Stoller's here. He's coming off a huge win last night at Vilonia. He improved his conference record to 4-2, moved up into third place in the conference as he kind of inches his way back up to that number one spot as some of the local folks have predicted you to win that conference, which if you're in the top four, hey, the deal is you're going on to the state tournament, and that's kind of all that really matters, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. At this point, your first, you want to win the conference and, finish on top. But, first things first. And that's the first thing is to win the next game, get closer to the state tournament. And that's right now, that's what we're trying to fight for.
This week, you played last night. You got a game Friday night against Alma. Isaac McCoy, the athlete of all, no matter what sport it is. He can do it all. Comes to town. Should be a real interesting game. They got a big one last night as they mercy ruled Siloam Springs, which, sometimes you can take some out of that. Sometimes you can't. It's one of those things. Teams match up differently against each other. Some teams just don't play well against other teams. You can't take much out of it other than to say is Alma's a quality basketball team, and they're coming to town Friday night.
They are, and they're leading the league, and they have really they've had quite a few games where they've won by big margins, and Isaac McCoy is the key to that team, and everything goes through him. They run a lot of ball screen stuff, a lot of dribble penetration, and he's quick as a hiccup, and very tough to control, very tough to contain, and they have really good shooters around him. They're very similar to Huntsville in the way they shoot the ball, but there's a difference. Huntsville's more, screen-oriented, where Alma's more penetration-oriented, and Huntsville don't have the quickness of McCoy, but Alma don't have the deep threat of Trumbo. So, there's a very similar a lot in a lot of ways. And last night I talked to Coach Taylor this morning, and he felt like they kind of, I think the effect of our game Saturday night still affected them a little bit last night, according to what he said. But he did say Alma played really good, and I know they're going to be ready when they come to our place, and I know our guys will be ready too, so it should be an excellent game. Yeah.
Not that I want to look forward to it, but two big games back-to-back. You play Friday night against Alma. You got Tuesday night off, kind of a rare break, smack dab in the middle of the conference play, but you play back-to-back home games on Friday night. But Huntsville comes back to town the following Friday, makes for a real interesting couple of weeks of basketball over at the Spook House.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, that's just the 5A West, and Huntsville added to the league as good as they are this year. Just adds even more. And our rivalry is, I think everybody knows about it, the Lyndall Thomas finals, and then we go to their place and they play extremely well, so it's 1-1. So we are looking forward to that rematch again.
They are a quality basketball team. Anybody who watched any basketball knew when you beat them in overtime in the Lyndall Thomas that they had that, not that they needed any more motivation or something to get up for, but they circled that date when you were coming to their place.
Oh, there's no doubt.
It's an amazing. Let's talk a bit about your team. It starts at the point guard with obviously your man who's a 2-year starter, Blake McNair, coming in, leads the way. Kind of been struggling a little bit. I think looking at him, watching him play a little bit, kind of forcing a couple things, but overall you cannot be disappointed with what he does for you.
Oh, he don't turn the ball over much. And people are keying on him. Siloam keyed on him big time the other night. They picked him up inline to inline. Felt like Blake handled that extremely well. And people are going to start getting more physical with him, I think. And we're going to have to run people off screens, all of our shooters, and get more movement within our offense. And I think you'll see him start to really start wearing it out once we start doing that. And he's not the only one. All of our guards have got to move better without the basketball. And once we do that, I think that'll open things up for them as well as for John.
Bringing up Big John, impressive defensively. The other night against Siloam Springs, he got in foul trouble. Boy, I tell you what, that just killed you to sit him down in the first 2 minutes of the third quarter with him 4 fouls. But I want to say this on record, and I said it in the broadcast, Jackson Dozier came in and played extremely well. 6 points, kept their big guy off the boards, keep him from scoring. He ultimately was a big turning factor for you to come back and keep you in the ballgame, because they very easily could have stretched that game out at Siloam, open it up when you don't have the defensive changer in the middle of the ball game.
Oh, yes. He was a big key to that game. He came out, and he was highly motivated. He knew that guy's a sophomore, and he's a sophomore. And I think that really challenged him. I think he challenged himself to go out and do well against him, and he did. He stood his own, and that was a big key for us getting in the win.
Because when he fouled out, you're down by 6. Very easily could have went to double digits, and that's a huge makeup because you can't bring him back as you brought. I said you're not going to see him back until about the 5-minute mark of the fourth quarter, exactly when you got him off the bench, about 5:10 to go. But Jackson Dozier played extremely well, and you're right. If I was motivated, but saw some really good things, and actually took it from a 6-point deficit to a 1-point deficit when he brought Big John back.
Yes, that was a big key of the game right there. It was a stretch we were concerned with it because they go so much to that post kid, to the Henson kid, and we knew that they were probably going to attack quickly. But Jackson, boy, he did a great job. We were really proud of him.
Yeah.
He plays hard, works hard every day in practice, and that's starting to pay off for him.
Henson and Teague were obviously their two guys. I mean, they had 90% of their points. Let's talk about the guy who had to guard him, Kendall Martin. We talked about this just before we come on the air here a little bit. He is your unsung guy, does whatever you ask him to do, never says, no, coach, I'm not going to do that. Guards whoever their best player is typically. Going to do the things that you want, is always going to be mismatched. I look at the Mountain home game, they started 2 guys that were 6'7". John's got one guy can match up with him. He's guarding a guy that's, a half a foot taller than him and maintains his own and does what he needs done.
Oh, he does. He's a dream out there. He like you said, he does everything you ask, and he's guarded some great players. He's guarded the boy at Branson, he's guarded Trumbo, he's guarded Teague, as you mentioned, and so many others. He always has a tough draw, and he'll have a tough draw Friday night with McCoy. But you know what? He'll be up for the challenge. And the big thing that he's got to remember, I think, that a lot of people forget a lot of times is, your man's may score a lot of points, but that's because he's shooting a lot of shots.
Right.
And if he forces them into shooting low percentage shots, he's done his job, and he does that.
And Teague did take some pretty bad looking shots, just forcing it to get it up. The big stance, as you and I talked about, was the stance at the end of regulation. They just cleared out the 4 guys and left it one-on-one to see what was going to happen. And Kendall answered the call by stopping him, and he threw up a layup, tried to take it to the hole, but it was a bad shot up underneath the basket, hit the backboard, kind of hit the underside of the rim, and we went to overtime, and it was a nice way for it to go.
Yeah, that was a big key for us. Kendall does a lot of those things that you don't get your name in the newspaper for. So, but I think he's greatly appreciated and he's a big time key to our team.
Let's talk about Dalton Young. Hit the big 3 for you to send it to overtime. That was huge, 10-point deficit in that short period of time. You guys came back. That was huge, and I don't want to take away from Alex Rose, who I thought. You didn't start him that night, but came off the bench and did some good things down the stretch at the end of the ball game that really were, I don't know if you planned that, but kind of sneaking around doing that little trap deal where he come in and stole the ball, kind of caught Teague, which goes to what Kendall Martin's doing on his job, trying to get the 5 count, and then him being able to sneak up and steal the ball and go away for the layup.
Oh, yeah. Well, Kendall would turn him a little bit, and he's worried more about Kendall, and then Alex would come up from behind. And Alex does a real good job. He does a great job as a help defender in those type of things. That's his strength defensively, and it just kind of, it fell right for us, and he timed it right, and Kendall put a great deal of pressure on him where he wasn't thinking about Alex, and Alex was able to get some picks, and the rest is history. And Dalton made a great 3.
Oh man!
And he'll do that. Dalton, you just can't leave him. He'll wear it out, and he'll shoot it he'll shoot the first possession of the game, or he'll shoot it that last possession of the game with a lot on the line. It don't affect him a bit, and he's a clutch player, and he really came up big.
Those are your guys who typically are starting for you. The other guy coming off the bench is Mikey Andresen. He's a senior. Did some things right for you. He's kind of in the tweener size. He can shoot the 3 for you, but sometimes you got to let him guard somebody a little bit bigger than him. And has kind of answered the call every time you've given it to him.
Yes, he has. Mikey is he's long for his size. He's 6'1", and he's got real long arms, and he's hard to shoot over. And if he contains his man real good and makes him shoot jump shots over the top, and he's tough to score on him. and he's also an excellent rebounder. He gives us a lot of help on the boards, and everybody knows about his 3-point shooting. He can shoot it. He can start lighting it up at any time. So he is a big time threat for us, and he's a big advantage for us whenever he's in the basketball game.
The ability that you have to shoot the three with really Kendall, Mikey, Blake, and Alex, it really opens up the middle game for John, and it eliminates teams from having to step down and double team and triple team him. He's able to just be able to do whatever he needs to do to get one-on-one, and he has that nice little baby hook that does it.
He sure does. He does a great. That is a big advantage for us, and I'll tell you what, we have some guys that can really shoot it, and John knows it, and he looks for them, and I'm sure he's appreciative. I know he's appreciative of those shooters out there, and that's something that we don't feel like really as far as shooting. We've peaked yet at this point. We're hoping that our percentage continues to rise here as we get down the stretch of the season.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on. This is going to be a weekly event with Coach Dollar and Coach Young. We appreciate you watching the Coaches Show. Until next week, I'm your host, Lauren Tepper, and on behalf of the Harrison Goblins and Lady Goblins coaching staff and Hometown TV, we thank you for watching. We'll be back next week.